You don't know if it's spent? Here we approved 5 pickups. Did we buy 5 pickups? I don't either. But then we approved 2 more. See, things like that, it's not worked out.
Those are questions that need to be asked,
Right,
not here, not now.
right. I agree. We on? Testing. Yeah, yes, it is. No, I don't. No. Now, Richard, don't get up here and spend 3 hours talking.
Richard?
I brought a snack. Isn't that the test?
Well,
If I bring a snack, I can do what I want.
we need to get out of here before midnight.
All right, midnight. Got it.
Wouldn't count on it.
Oh, please. No. No.
The City Council of the City of Gumbel, City, Texas will meet in a regular meeting in City Hall Council Chambers located at 1716 West Main Street, Gumbel City, Texas on Tuesday, March 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Please stand for the invocation. Tonight, I would like for us to offer a moment of silence for the folks out in West Texas with their fires and the folks in Central Texas and North Texas that went through the tornadoes this last several days. So if you would just bow your heads in a moment of silence. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call from my right, please.
Foster here.
Mullins here.
Brew here.
Evans here.
Y'all's here.
We have a quorum. Citizens' comments, I've got 3. Do y'all want, all 3 are speaking on 2B? Does anyone want to speak now, or do you want to speak at the time of the agenda item? If anybody wants to speak now, Mr. Howell, Mr. Wyrick, or Mrs. Weller, you're welcome to stand up now and speak. Okay. We'll do that in a few minutes. I'll read the citizens' comment thing real quick. The purpose of this item is to allow citizens an opportunity to address the City Council on items that are listed on the agenda or issues that are not listed on the agenda. Any person desiring to make a public comment must first be recognized by the presiding officer and sign in the podium with their name and address at least 10 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Individual citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes. The presiding officer may ask the citizen to hold their comment on an agenda item until that agenda item is reached. The City Council has no obligation to respond in any manner to comments or questions from the public. Any response from a member of the City Council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, a recital of existing policy, or direction to staff for follow-up. Yes, ma'am. Come right ahead. Name and address, and go ahead.
My name is Kate Weller. My address is 129 Camino Robles. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening in support of the proposed proposed ordinance to raise pay for city staff. Americans like to talk about heroes. In Gun Barrel City, our heroes are seldom talked about. Our heroes are our city staff. We depend upon them to conduct daily city business, watch our spending, pay our bills, keep our city clean, enforce our city codes, plan and execute our Christmas parade, Halloween event, Easter egg hunt, July Fest, and listen to our complaints. Most of them do a job that in other cities requires 2 people. Some of these folks make less per hour than folks making tacos at Taco Bell. We can do better. We must do better. We count on our police officers and our paid firefighters to keep us safe. Quite a job when our population doubles on weekends and can quadruple on holiday and event weekends. Currently, our police officers make thousands of dollars less per year than do the officers in surrounding cities. We count on our police dispatchers and 911 operators to answer when we call. What if you called and no one answered? What if you called 911 and were put on hold? We can do better. We must do better. Until now, Gun Barrel City has not been in the position to keep pace with the national increase in the average hourly wage. Nor in recent years has Gun Barrel City been able to give meaningful cost of living wage increases. In fact, Gun Barrel City has not been able to give cost of living raises for several years. Now we are in the financial position to match the hourly wage and to catch up for those missed years. This is crucial not only to attract the best candidates when openings occur, but to retain our current staff who work unseen yet tirelessly for us. The citizens of Gun Barrel have elected you to speak for us. Tonight you speak for us by showing our gratitude for and our appreciation of our heroes, our city staff, by voting yes on the proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weller. Mr. Wark, did you want to talk now or, okay. Mr. Howell, did you want to talk now or wait? Thank you. Item 1A, consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Oh, excuse me, I forgot. Before we get there, we have Mr. Yalls wanted to make an announcement for employee appreciation. Mr. Yalls?
Thank you, Mayor Skanes, and I appreciate everybody allowing me this opportunity to speak. I'd like to say something on behalf of Employee Appreciation Day. Was March 4th of this year, and this is our first council meeting since that date. And I believe it's appropriate that we say something in recognition of the service of all the wonderful city employees we have in Gun Barrel. As Ms. Weller pointed out, some of the qualities that they exhibit and some of the things that they do. I took the time to put down a few words, and I apologize in advance if my words are not poetic. I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer, but I'm going to do my best, so if you'll allow me. Over the past 2 years, people from the city of Gun Barrel, the U.S., or from Texas, the U.S., and from all around the world found ourselves being pulled in new directions after we were all first thrust into the world of a global pandemic. We really only had written articles or stories passed down from generation to generation to prepare us for what came next. We learned that we had to forego shaking hands, hugs, birthday parties, graduations, weddings, and sadly even funerals. Just being in close proximity to our own families, friends, and coworkers might not have been safe, we learned. We learned to use new terminology and technology, social distancing, remote learning. School kids had to learn Zoom and WebEx. Some of us had to learn the proper way to wash our hands, and we learned the term essential workers. When we think of essential workers, most often our thoughts run to doctors and nurses and everyone that keep our hospitals and medical system running. In our own community, we also think of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics. And it might even be easy to forget that all city employees were also essential and have been throughout this entire pandemic. Everyone that runs the city, works for the city, the staff at City Hall, the street department, everyone still had to come to work. And they did. Residents of Gun Barrel City still called 911 for the police and the fire department, and those calls had to be answered, and they did. Communication was more important than ever before. Calls to City Hall had to be answered, and they did. Bills had to be paid, and they did. Our roads didn't fix themselves. The street department had to keep coming to work, and they did. Being an essential worker did not come with any immunity from COVID. They came to work and, like many others, paid a price, and sadly, even recently, some paid an ultimate price for that. In spite of all this, all the rest, they still came back to work. Most, if not all, of our city employees have families. Even though their family members don't work for the city, they were also faced with paying the price, since you can't social distance every day in your own home. And living through the last 2 years was not just about COVID. Gun Barrel City, just like all of Texas, including just yesterday, as we've learned, we've had our ice storms and all the other things that have happened over the last 2 years that were regular and routine for our city employees, but were extraordinary considering the times that we were in. First responders, they do what they do. They stand up, they run into the storm. The street department, one of the best stories I heard was them repurposing some of their equipment for making roads to go out there and clear the roads so that we could drive on them. If you weren't there when it happened, you wouldn't have appreciated it, but just to know that it did is kind of like, wow. That's not what they're there for, but they did it. Emergency operations stood up, made sure people had water when the pipes froze. There's just so many stories like this that happened, and they continue to happen every day and every year. Lives saved, change for the better, and disasters averted. Our quality of life in this small East Texas town is protected. For those that are not aware, in spite of all these world events, Gun Barrel City, unlike many other cities, has continued to thrive financially throughout these past 2 years. It's a little blessing. Humility prevents any of the people who are ultimately responsible, or many of the people who are ultimately responsible for this, from bragging on themselves, but I would like to brag on them because they're here today, and I thank you for coming because we wanted you to hear this. So for that reason, I'd like to take this moment as a member of your elected city government to say thank you to all the city employees, department heads, staff, everyone. You deserve so much more than just a pat on the back and these kind words, and I personally plan to vote to do something about that today as soon as we get done with this. Until then, for all that you have done and all that you will do, please accept these heartfelt words, my gratitude and my thanks. And your work is what makes our hometown something that I feel, and I'm certain that most all of us are extremely proud of. Thank you.
I just need to stand up for him.
Thank you, Mr. Oz.
But it'll do.
All right, back to 1A. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine for the city council and be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consider approving the following reports: city manager report, January and February financials, February meeting minutes, court report, dispatch, permits, inspections, and code enforcement, police report, streets and park maintenance, fire report, January and February, EDC Director Activities Report, January and February, and the EDC February minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Evans, you had a statement you wanted to make?
Yes, I talked to Robin about the financials not being on here for the EDC, and she doesn't have them from the CPA, so we need to work on that. And the last ones we got was January. So we need February and March.
And that was because she wasn't getting them from the bookkeeper,
Yeah,
which we have discussed about bringing them back in-house.
correct.
So that should take care of that when we get that accomplished. But in the meantime, perhaps the executive director could talk with the bookkeeper and see if we can get them sooner so that we can get them to the council on time. So that'd be great. All right. Any other comment?
No.
Vote for my right, please.
Foster, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Guys, yes.
Item 2A, discuss and/or take action to move animal control pay range from a 15 to an 18 on the pay scale. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to discuss and/or take action to move animal control pay range from 15 to 18 on the pay scale.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Mr. City Manager? Do you care to?
We unfortunately lost our animal control officer due to COVID back in December. And in evaluating our job description for that position in an attempt to fill that position, it became pretty obvious to me that the pay scale and the pay range for the animal control officer was inappropriate for the job that that person filled. An animal control officer does almost identically what a code enforcement officer does. They enforce our animal control ordinances. They are required to undertake continuing education. They issue citations to the public. They deal with dangerous situations every day with sometimes vicious, uncontrolled animals. And they're on call 24 hours a day to respond if needed. So I believe that the animal control officer does almost identical the same job as a code enforcement officer. And I propose to move that position from a 15 to a title designation 18, which is the same as a code enforcement officer.
All right. Any discussion?
No.
Vote for my right, please.
Foster, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Y'all's yes.
Motion carries. Item 2B, discuss and/or take action to adopt ordinance number 2022-004, amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. Ordinance 2022-004, an ordinance of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending ordinance number 2021-034, which adopted the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget so as to increase revenues and expenditures by $350,926 and move the additional 2020-2021 fund balance of $197,481 to the reserve fund account, bringing the total 2021-2022 fiscal year budget to $5,479,137, and to allocate those funds into various city departments and to provide an effective date. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance O 2022-004, amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We discussed this in the, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Wyatt, you want to speak, please, sir? And 3 minutes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Ron Warwick. A lot of these people know me. I've been around here for a long, long time. I've looked at this here. I'm not against it totally about the raises and all, but looking back over the years past, and I'm talking about years past, this has been going on for a while about getting these employees raises. It's been talked about for the last 3 or 4 years, and every time it's talked about, we didn't have no money in it. Looking back over some of the paperwork that I saw when I was on council and all, we had money in there to give the employees raises. Over past that time, we discussed on employees getting better raises department-wise on what duties you've done, what classifications you had, to be able to get the employees that comes in not knowing nothing up to become a captain, a sergeant, running equipment and stuff like this here, incentives pay to help make them more money instead of flat rate pay. So I started calling around, checking with other police departments around here, and here we are. We're the biggest city with the biggest police department on the lake, and our little sister went across the bridge here in Payne Springs. It only has like three or four police officers. They bring their police officers on the same pay as what we bring ours in. That's a shame to have our police officers here making lower than another police department around here that's only got 2 or 3 people. We need to sit down and look at this a lot more thorough and break it down to where this city pays our officers and our street department people and fire department and get it broke down to where they're making good money. Not just come in here every time we turn around and decide, okay, we're going to give everybody a 15% raise. Well, y'all give them what, a 3% raise here not long ago? And what you lost? How many police officers have you lost so far this year? 5, 6? I mean, that's not working on it. Just because you throw 15% out here to the whole city is not just gonna keep just all the police officers. I mean, when they go to work someplace else, just like their dispatchers. They can't keep dispatchers. If they ain't got dispatchers, they can't get to where they need to go. It's just like the dog catcher here. I like to fail out when I really never did notice it, that the dog catcher was making less money here in Gun City for all the stuff he was doing. Little things like that
10 seconds, Mr. Wyatt.
is what takes place here in Gun City, that y'all, as council, need to sit back and look at this stuff more thoroughly, not just sit there and run through it, stamp it, and send it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. And I appreciate your 6 years on council, too. All right, Mr. Howell?
Good evening, council and residents and employees of the city. My name is Mike Howell. I live at 302 Bounding Main in Harbor Point over here. And I've been an employee with the city for 12 years. And I just saw this month, the 14th, that y'all had this workshop on revising the ordinance for the budget to give all the employees of the city a pay raise. A lot of us that work for the city, we are single income families, and this could really help us, each and every one of us that are single family budget members. Now, I want to personally thank the city council for bringing this forward, each and every one of you, to bringing it and putting it on the table and having a workshop for us. This is the grandest thing that y'all could ever do for us, and I really appreciate y'all. I really do. You're a good government, and I know you have a level head, and I know you'll make the right decisions for us, but all the employees and my 12 years here, I love working for this city, and I plan on retiring with this city. And I just want to say thank you to the council for bringing this forward and amending this ordinance, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Mr. City Manager, would you like to?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of explain a little bit how we got here. The last 24 months, our city has seen a sustained growth. We can't explain it. When other cities have suffered during the pandemic, we haven't. The last 24 months, we've had 1 month that did not see significant growth over the previous 2 years. And we looked at this the last couple of years, and we were very cautious. We wanted a good sample size to evaluate whether the growth was real or whether it was an anomaly. I don't need to tell anyone in this room how much we've grown. With growth comes added retail, added customers, added people in our city. And we didn't just arbitrarily come up with a number. Myself and City Treasurer Mickey Rainey spent weeks preparing these documents. We looked at past history. She's a 20-year employee of the city. She has worked through bad times and good times. We evaluated the last 11 years, city employees have averaged 1.87% increase in pay over 11 years. What really brought to our attention is we're in an 8+% inflation cycle. The city is prospering, so a part of that 8% increase in inflation comes right back to the city in 8% increased sales tax revenue. It is a directly proportional number. And so we looked at the numbers, and we looked at how do we evaluate them. And, you know, inflation's at a 40-year high. 40 years. Many, if not the majority of our city employees are not 40 years old. They've never experienced this type of inflation. They're feeling the pain at the pump and at the store, not just the rank and file. 24 of our 42 rank and file employees make less than $15.40 an hour. That's not even by definition a livable wage for a single family. Our proposal that we came up with, 15%, that's a huge number. But 15% of a little number is a little number. And that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with 15% of really low-level employees pay-wise. I presented to the city council. We had a workshop on the 22nd. I came in with an objective, comprehensive proposal. I provided the city council with employee comparisons from 7 cities of like size and like service. I provided them with a budget comparison of 10 cities, some smaller, some larger, but all in the same category. And I presented the proposal with not only the $197,000 fund balance over what we spent in the 2020-2021 budget year, but the money that we've already taken in this year in additional income that we budgeted for. This entire proposal is already paid for. We're not looking at proposed revenue. I presented to the city council that if we did not increase our income, sales tax-wise, in the last 6 months of the year, this is still paid for. This was proposed without any increase. In the last 2 years, during that 6-month period of time, we have averaged more than 13% growth over the previous year. The money is there. So that was the proposal in coming forward. We did a lot of careful analysis of the money, of the budgetary constraints, and I came to the city council with 6 items to amend. The first and foremost was a 15% pay raise for rank and file. Our police officers were the lowest of all 6 or 7 police departments that I proposed. We cannot keep dispatchers. You know why? We run the same dispatch system that Henderson County and Kaufman County runs. They pay $5 more an hour for the same exact job, apples to apples. Same console, same equipment, same job. They were probably my project. It was easy to compare apples to apples. Came with 6 items that amount to a little over $300,000. 15% pay raise for all rank and file employees. We have 42 rank and file employees in the city. Police officers and fire department, Mr. Wyrick mentioned, they're more than 50% of our staff. So we're not talking about a huge amount of non-public safety employees on our staff to begin with. Very few support staff. A 5% raise to department heads. Why did we do that? We spent 2 years ago weeks preparing an objective, comprehensive salary structure for our employees. If we do not include our department heads in the pay raise, we cause an imbalance in that salary structure that we cannot correct. We have rank and file employees now making more than department managers that manage them. So the 5% increase amounts to, in our fiscal year, less than $15,000 total dollars, $14,900 for the department heads in addition to the rank and file. We asked for $7,500 more per vehicle. We budgeted for 5 vehicles. We can't even order vehicles today. There are none available for fleet sales. Automobile manufacturers cannot make them, cannot get the semiconductor chips to prepare the trucks. So we may not even get to buy them because they're not even available. But we surely can't buy them for the amount of money that we budgeted. Inflation is affecting every single thing in our country. We asked for a rescue boat. During the budget process, City Council approved the purchase of a rescue boat. We currently rescue people in our lake using a firefighter's personal boat that is not equipped for that task. If any of you have watched the breakers in the wintertime on the west side of town, I wouldn't be taking a 19-foot bayliner out into that lake, but they do it because they're public safety employees and they're dedicated. We can't buy a boat for that price that we budgeted. We have 2 proposed invoices. Both of them are right around $150,000. We're waiting for the third. We cannot buy a boat to serve our needs in our city if we're going to purchase one for $100,000. It's either add some money to the budget to pay for the boat or we don't have a boat. It's just that much simple. We budgeted for and proposed bathrooms, restrooms in the park. Same thing, inflation. Can't find people to build them because they're not available. And then those we do that will give us a budget proposal, it's way above what money we budgeted to spend. It's just the supply and demand. It's simple economics, not enough workers, too much work being done, nobody to complete the tasks. And the last thing was to finish the computers in the police car. Not only did we not need to buy 5 cars that were proposed, we don't need to buy the 2 cars that were budgeted for. So we're proposing to take the money that was going to buy patrol cars and finish a project that I started as a police chief over 3 years ago. That's to put computers in the cars, which will help alleviate some of the workload that dispatchers that we don't have because we can't hire them because they're going to work for other agencies because we don't pay enough. But this takes away some of that stress from the dispatcher. So I know I'm long-winded. I really wanted to share with you the process when we left the budget meeting. City staff, in good faith, believed that we had presented our information in a comprehensive, thorough manner. Spent over an hour presenting these 6 items. And with that, we have a budget proposal to the City Council. City staff went back in good faith, prepared the documentation for tonight's meeting, and that is presented to the City Council to make a decision on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. What was I don't have my budget with me. Did we budgeted revenue-wise 5.1 million for this year? Is that
It was a little over $5.1 million, yes.
That's what I thought. Comments?
Well, I was in the budget meeting, and I am for all of you all getting a raise, no problem. Some of the things that we approved or didn't have a lot of discussion on, I'm not really for. I think we can use the money. I think we need to start using the money better than what we're doing now. That's just my opinion. But for the police, fire, and dispatcher, animal control, I'm all for them getting a raise.
Mr. Mayor, I had a speech prepared in support of this amendment, and listening to what everyone said, I have one thing to add, and that is thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I've heard some comments suggestive that, and again, everyone has a right to an opinion, and I respect everyone's opinion. Whether or not I agree with it is completely appropriate in my opinion, but I still respect others. I've heard comments suggestive that we need to study this more. I believe the city manager was incredibly diligent in getting this information to us in a very detailed and comprehensive format. In my opinion, the assertion that we should think about it a little bit longer isn't going to change anything except put more money in the bank that we should be paying our employees who, quite honestly, can use it today, not tomorrow or the next week or the next month. And we only do this meeting once a month, and I don't want to make them wait because I don't think that's right. Another suggestion was that we should take some of this money and put it toward roads. As I've understood it, the city of Gun Barrel, the citizens of Gun Barrel voted numerous years ago to take away the ad valorem property tax, which was the primary source of funding for roads. There was a decision made then, and we even had a new election on that a couple of years ago to discuss it again, and the people of Gun Barrel spoke and said what they wanted us to do. And it's clear that from the budget that we have in the city right now, any attempt to try and pretend that we have that property tax, the multi-millions of dollars that it would take to reconstruct the roads, for us to try and say, no, we're not going to pay our city employees because we have a fantasy that we're going to fix every road in Gun Barrel with this pittance that we're going to pay these employees is exactly that. It's fantasy. We're going to keep working on roads. We've got incredible programs that are taking place because of our excellent leadership in City Hall with the city manager. But I think we've already heard everything we need to hear. The workshop said it all. I've studied the material that Mr. Arnsworld provided to us, and I've come to the same conclusion that he did. This is the time, it's now, and this is the right thing to do. I'm going to vote yes for the amendment.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager? Mr. City Manager, I too have heard that we should take some of this money and put it towards roads, but I've not had any complaints on roads other than asking when we would finish Welch Road, which we've got a 5-phase plan that we're about to start phase 2 and 3 on. Have you had any complaints on streets?
I honestly have not had one citizen call me and complain about a road, other than in the Tres Lagos subdivision, which is private property. We have discussed and debated that with our city attorney, and I've had discussions with the people that live in that subdivision, and we're trying to work on somehow bringing them into the city. But they are by codes, covenants, and restrictions, private property. When they developed that subdivision, they elected to leave it private because it was concrete, Portland cement concrete roadways, and we use asphalt concrete. Completely different substance. I'll agree that those roads in that subdivision need repair. However, we don't have the means to do it. We cannot spend public funds on private property. And other than that, I have not entertained one complaint from a citizen. I've talked about roads from day one, about how we need more funding in our city to help build our infrastructure. But we have, our city street superintendent has done over 20 miles of chip seal. We are rebuilding parts of Welch Lane, but just by, for example, it's $660,000 a mile to build a road. We have $700,000+ in our street sales tax road fund. We can do 1 mile of 4-inch hot mix construction. I have the invoices in my presence now to show that. Those are real numbers. And we went out and purchased equipment so that we could do the work ourselves. It's a little bit slower, but we're doing 1 mile of chip seal for about $60,000. So really good use of taxpayers' money. It's not hot mix asphalt, but it's made a lot of improvements the last couple of years. So to answer your question, Mr. Mayor, sorry I'm long-winded, but I have a lot of passion for the work these city managers and department heads do, and I think it's disingenuous to not at least acknowledge the work that they're doing out there on the streets in our city. They're doing a fine job.
I agree. Mr. Foster, do you have a statement?
Well, I prepared a statement and I've made it available to the audience and to the council. I appreciate the interest in people coming in tonight. And yes, I support the 15% increase for line city employees. I did suggest that we hold back money on administrative staff and department heads. Yes, we have a lot of money coming in, but we have many unknowns. 10% inflation rate, $4 a gallon gasoline, a declining lake. I do not want to see next year to have to come in and look at the layoffs, which would be a major problem for us. I am somewhat concerned that at the start of this fiscal year, you were only offered a 5% raise when we had a substantial amount of money. 6 months later, this has become a major priority. It's always been a priority. It should have been addressed 6 months ago. You, the city employees sitting here tonight, have lost out on 6 months' worth of increase that could have come about had this been approached and brought to us 6 months ago rather than now. So keep in mind that, yes, I'm supporting it. I will support this tonight, but we have to do a better job, I think, in planning. I'd like to see more department head input in terms of what your real needs are in the budget process. And I concur wholeheartedly that we need to raise these budgets, raise increase in salaries for all of our city employees. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I will point out there are some mistakes in the statements you prepared. You said the beginning of fiscal year 22, we showed a budget that would go, that was 4.3, and it was 5.1 million, not 4.3 million. And now we are at right at 5.5. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and that's, in that difference between the 5.1 and the 5.4, 5.5 that we're right at today will pay for the total that we have. And I think that I'm sorry, Ms. Mullins, did you have a comment? Okay. I think that on the other issue was that you said that in this amendment there was $150,000 for a rescue boat, and it's just adding another 50. As the city manager said, when we approved it, we felt like $100,000 would be enough to get a boat, but with inflation like it has gone on, and then finding one of the right size, it finally came around to we could buy a used boat and wear it out in 3 or 4 years, or we can buy a new boat and keep it for 20 years. And it ends up costing us about $7,500 a year if we do it that way. So I think the difference in what I'm hearing is strictly whether or not our department heads deserve an increase. Mr. City Manager, what would that cost us for just the department heads? 14,000?
14.9.
Yeah, $14,900 for the remainder of the fiscal year.
15,000. You know, the department heads are very key to everything that we do. I mean, it was a department head who was out on the streets every morning at 6:30, giving a road report, driving a grader, clearing the streets for 2 weeks. You know, it's not just that they're not doing anything. They're all working. They're all filling in for their employees that aren't there. If we have a fireman that's out, and fire chief gets active and fills in that role. Same thing with the police department. When previous chief, this chief that we have right here, would sit down and work at the dispatch board if needed to be, if we were short. So it's, you know, I just don't understand how we can even contemplate not giving department heads an increase as well. And then you have the administrative issue of we have department heads that are now making less than hourly workers, and that makes no sense to me. I've never worked in an environment where that was something that was allowed, or was, I mean, how are you going to keep good department heads? And your hourly people, I mean, everyone that we have in this city works hard. They fill multiple hats. We have a social media person that's working permit desk right now because we have the permit person who's out on some sick leave. You know, so they rotate around. They do a lot of different things, and I just don't understand how we can exclude administrative staff such as the social media person and you know, the others. The city planner would be excluded in this. We're asking him to help plan the city. You know, we've got a lot of development coming in, and his role is important to that. We need him to work with these developers and talk to them and educate them on the processes and procedures, which we were able to take that responsibility off the city secretary so she could do city secretary work. So I just have a real difficult time that we go through the entire process. We dedicated as much time to this budget as we did to the regular budget. We went through it pretty quick. And this time we spent an hour and a half, 2 hours in here talking about it. I asked twice, do we have a consensus? I was told yes, and then I'm told a few days later, no, we don't. The problem with that is that in a workshop, a consensus gives the city staff the directive to go to work on it. They spend the money with the attorneys to get the ordinance drawn up. The ordinance has to pass or fail. I do want to explain that to everybody tonight. We cannot make exceptions to an ordinance. Once it's posted, it is unlawful to change it. We will have to, if this does not pass, then we'll have to regroup. I'll talk with the city manager, see what he wants to do, and then we will have to consider what needs to be done then, whether I call another workshop or what happens. So,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, sir?
This ordinance can be amended.
No, sir?
If you look at section, City Charter, section 3.142, this can be amended by vote and require the amended ordinance to be placed on the agenda at the next regular city council meeting.
No, sir. State law prevails and the ordinance cannot be amended.
Well, then our
Mr.
city
Foster,
charter is not.
my meeting, the ordinance cannot be amended. I won't argue with you about it. I've been told by multiple people that we cannot amend the ordinance, including city attorney. So this either passes or fails.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
as I understand it, the department heads is a point of contention for at least one of our representatives here, and I understand that that's approximately just shy of $15,000. Mr. City Manager, approximately how much road can we improve with $15,000?
Well, if we base it on what we paid to do the 1,993 feet of Welch Lane, about 121 feet.
So we're actually having an argument over 120 feet of road versus compensating people for doing the job that we depend upon. I'm speechless.
Any further comment? All right, vote from our right.
Foster, no?
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, no.
Yaws, yes.
Motion fails. Takes a supermajority. Discuss and/or take action to interview an applicant for the EDC Board of Directors and consider making appointments. Mr. Madison? May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to interview the applicant for the EDC Board of Directors.
Second.
At the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Jeff Madison, and it's an honor to be here tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I've been a Gun Barrel City resident for almost 5 years, and I reside in Harbor Point with my wife, who's here tonight, of 22 years. We have 4 children and 1 grandchild. I retired at the end of 2019 from a 35-year career in banking. The last 19 years as a vice president with Wells Fargo in business and commercial banking. As a retiree, I've given a lot of thought to what I'd like to do for my community, and recently, my neighbor Diane Johannes, who many of you know, mentioned to me that I might consider applying for an open spot on the EDC. This definitely piqued my interest, and as I thought about my background, it certainly had some parallels to what the EDC was doing. Should I be chosen by the City Council, my vision would be to help the EDC identify and underwrite opportunities that Gun Barrel City and business owners can benefit from mutually, and in turn, grow our tax base and allow our great city to increase our police and fire department presence, along with maintaining our roads, which that sounds like that's a little bit of a contentious matter, but I look forward to being a part of the positive growth of Gun Barrel City, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Council?
You already answered every question I had.
I tried to. I looked at some of the other interviews, so I was hoping I could kind of tell you where I'm coming from. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I guess volunteering, if you will. My wife volunteers for CASA in Henderson County, so she's been kind of poking me to do something myself, with all the time on my hands. So I look forward to working with you guys and the EDC, Robin and Diane Johannes, and some of the other people I haven't met yet. So that's all I've got.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, hang on just a sec. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Appreciate you volunteering.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. All right. Questions or comments in general? Vote for my right.
Foster, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yaws, yes.
Welcome aboard, sir. And you can get with, we certainly appreciate you volunteering to be on our EDC board. And so we appreciate you volunteering to be on the EDC board, and you can get with Ms. Sakaria, and she'll get you straightened out with all the good information. So we'll go from there. Let's see, item 3B, first reading of resolution number R 2022-002, authorizing an EDC expenditure not to exceed $3,500 for East Texas Council of Governments Regional Broadband Local Match Project. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the first reading. Am I reading this right?
Yep.
Okay. Discuss and, make sure I'm reading the right one.
Just doing a reading. I'm sorry, you don't have, I don't need a
think I
motion.
need to make a motion.
I don't need a motion, my fault. Resolution number R 2022-002, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, approving a Type B economic development project and authorizing an expenditure not to exceed $3,500 for the East Texas Council of Governments Regional Broadband Local Match Project, authorized pursuant to sections 501.103 and 505.158 of the Texas Local Government Code, and providing for an immediate and effective date. All right, item 3C, discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2022-002, approving a Type B economic development project and authorizing an expenditure not to exceed $3,500 for the East Texas Council of Governments Regional Broadband Local Match Project.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number R 2022-002, 2022-002, approving a Type B Economic Development Project and authorizing expenditure not to exceed $3,500 for the East Texas Council of Governments Regional Broadband Local Match Project.
Second.
Second.
A motion and second. All right. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, can we have our EDC director give us just a brief explanation and overview for
Sure.
those in attendance?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. This is an agreement that's been going on for about 10 or 12 years with ETCOG to try to develop a plan for regional broadband to cover the entire lake area. So with the grant program, with the federal government, local governments have to provide a match. And in this case, we're able to spread that match out over all the cities and counties and EDCs in the whole lake area. So we only have to provide $3,500 each.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Who writes the proposal?
The ETCOG, East Texas Council of Governments.
And what's the timing on that?
They're in the process of planning some of the most needed projects right now. They're going to be studied. This is a planning.
Do we have any idea where we would fit in the project priorities?
I do not.
But we need to provide the 3,500 just to be in the game.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Vote from my right.
Foster, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yours, yes.
Item 3D, first reading of resolution number R 2022-004, approving a facade grant to Holland Witten, Pickers and Pinchers, located at 633 East Main Street, in an amount not to exceed $6,315. Resolution number R 2022-004, resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun City, Texas, approving a facade grant program and performance agreement by and between the Gun City Economic Development Corporation and Holland Witten, and providing for an immediate effective date. Item 3E, discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2022-004, approving a facade grant to Holland Witten, Pickers and Pinchers, located at 633 East Main Street, in an amount not to exceed $6,315. May I have a motion, please? Yes, sir.
Before you move forward on that, I want to mention that the cap on facade grants is $5K. So the amount should be $5K.
That is true.
Okay, sorry about that. So we'll change
I've
that.
amended that in the agreement with the attorney. It was just already in your packet this way. But
I'm
I've
sorry?
already talked with Holland about
Okay.
that and the attorney.
Okay, so it is 5,000?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2022-004, approving a facade grant to Holland Witten, Pickers and Pinchers, located at 633 East Main Street, in an amount not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote for my right, please.
Foster, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yours, yes.
Item 3F, discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2022-005, approving an amended loan agreement with Tip Top Auto Repair LLC. Resolution R 2022-005, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun City, Texas, approving an amended and restated loan agreement and projected by and between the Gun City Economic Development Corporation and Tip Top Auto Repair LLC, a Texas limited liability company, and providing for an immediate effective date. I have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2022-005, approving an amended loan agreement with Tip Top Auto Repair LLC.
Second.
All right.
Mayor, can we get some comment on this? What's this about?
Tip Top Auto Repair had another shop called Tip Top Moving and Storage that they ended their lease in that agreement. The people who were working for him took over the lease and his equipment, and he is basically out of that income. He asked for an extension on his loan. He hasn't missed any payments. He's been very reliable. So we agreed to extend it by 2 years with your approval.
Board approved that?
Yes, we did.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
What's the amount of the loan, ma'am?
I don't have that with me, I apologize.
How long has he been paying on it?
I would have to look that up. His payments are going from $1,300 a month to $1,100 a month.
Several years.
Couple of years at least.
Yeah.
Exhibit A in the packet shows that the loan amount is, if I'm reading it correctly, $112,838.10 at 2%.
That sounds correct.
And loan period in years is for the amended loan is 9 years.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Yalls, how much did you say it was?
Let me read it again. The total, and again, I apologize. I believe this is the current amount that we're reading. It shows the loan amount is $112,838.10 at 2%.
112?
Yes, that's correct.
It's on the repayment schedule.
He moved from Pine Springs and built a brand new building all over here to come over here to Gumbel City, and that's why. You see him loan him 2 different projects and brought them both together, and that's what made up that, what y'all are looking at now.
Oh.
Okay.
Mr. Cora,
Yes.
have you checked with the attorney to make sure for that amount of money that we don't have to have 2 readings? Or, but just because it's a loan extension, we don't have to have the 2 readings, is that correct?
I did ask him about that. He prepared this document, and no additional monies are being spent. So he said that we should be good with 1 reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussions or questions? Vote from my right, please.
Boss, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Y'all's yes.
Item 4A, public hearing on a request to replat lots 14 and 15 in the Northwood Shore subdivision belonging to Robert Chatham Jr., physically located at 118 the Leeway, into 1 lot, Lot 14R. Public hearing is open. Does anyone wish to speak? Public hearing is closed. 4B, discuss and/or take action to approve the replatting of lots 14 and 15 in the Northwood Shore subdivision belonging to Robert Chapman Jr., physically located at 118 the Leeway, into 1 lot, Lot 14R. May I have a motion?
Make a motion to discuss and/or take action to approve the replatting of lots 14 and 15 in the Northwood Shores subdivision belonging to Robert Chatton Jr., physically located at 118 the Leeway, into 1 lot, Lot 14R.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is a simple replatting 2 lots into 1.
Correct. Anything else? Vote from my right.
Foster, yes.
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Y'all's yes.
Item 5A, convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters, to discuss the city manager's employment contract. It is 7:27. We will convene into open session, take any action necessary as a result of the executive session. The time is 8:12. May I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to negotiate a new contract with the city manager with the stipulation that he is a registered voter in the city.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Vote for my right.
Foster, no?
Mullins, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Oh, Evans, yes.
Gauge, yes.
Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.